I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
You're the average of the 5 people closest to you. And I remember reading that in a book and thinking, okay, well, I'm going to work hard to try to put myself in situations where I'm around successful and smart and interesting people. Ignore shiny marketing trends. Double down on what actually works. I've learned this, I guess, the hard way. I get excited. I have that ADD brain. Everything's shiny. I see a squirrel run by, that sort of mentality. And I try everything. Everyone's telling me, oh, you have to do TikTok. It's the most important thing. Wow. Yeah. Like there's always something. And then you go and you start doing it. And then you realize, I'm like, hey, I'm 40. I don't even like TikTok. So the TikTok marketing isn't good. And, if someone on the team wants to take a stab at it because they want to take a swing, go ahead. But when you identify things that are working, just focus your energy there. You don't need to be on everything.
That is today's guest, Dan Demsky, who was able to go from crowdfunding an idea with his best friends to becoming a $40 million global brand, all while working 100% remotely around the world. How do you build an 8-figure global business as a digital nomad? I needed to know. So I invited Dan on the show to share his top 10 principles that allowed him to build this e-commerce brand all while traveling. And that's exactly what you're going to hear today. Ton of takeaways in this one, including the counterintuitive truth about lifestyle business, how to set meaningful goals that push you forward, and so much more coming at you right now. So buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for being here, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. And today, you're going to get a bit of a masterclass in entrepreneurship and brand building while traveling, bootstrapping a business on the road, 100% remote. Of course, we need an income to sustain our travels, and not everybody wants to start something for themselves, but there are a lot of lessons to be learned regardless from people who have done this successfully. And I wanted to have somebody on who has had major success building a global brand while traveling the world. And I thought, who could that be? And then I realized I had somebody right in my network. Dan is actually the co-founder and CEO of Unbound Merino, one of our sponsors here on the podcast. They have a focus on creating versatile, timeless garments from merino wool. And Dan has done an incredible job building Unbound Merino, and I wanted to get his best lessons for you. How did he do this? And that's what you're going to hear today, and I love to know that he really took his time putting together this list, and there are going to be a lot of takeaways for you coming out of this one. So please enjoy this conversation. You can stick around on the back end. I have a quote to share which ties in with one of the points that Dan shares in this episode, which I wanted to re-emphasize, which has been a big factor for me personally, something that has allowed me to figure out how to, do the digital nomad thing for a while and then be able to take a business abroad and move to another country, which was extremely helpful for me in my personal situation to be able to come to Norway where I live now and actually have a business that I could bring with me and a built-in income. I didn't have to figure out how to, get a job here and learn the language before I could get a job and everything. I just came with the income stuff built in. So there are a lot of advantages to that. As you're roaming the world, you get access to more different visas where you can live in different places around the world. If you move abroad somewhere, you have something you can take with you, and on and on. And like I said, even if you're not the entrepreneurial type, I still think there are a lot of great lessons and takeaways in this one. So please enjoy my conversation. Of course, you can check out Unbound Merino over at unboundmerino.com. And we have a discount code for you if you're interested in their stuff that you can grab in the show notes. Anyway, thanks for listening. And one last thing, don't forget, we have a free newsletter, zerototravel.com/newsletter. Goes out once a week. I write it and would love to keep in touch with you over there. All right, without further ado, here's my conversation with Dan. I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers. Dan Demsky, welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. It's been a long time coming. How are you?
It's nice to be here. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for supporting the show, I should say. And we had a chance to learn about you and the fact that you were running this $40 million global brand while traveling the world. I thought, okay, we have like a little bit of an in here. So why don't we have you on the show so you can share these 10 principles that allowed you to build this all while traveling. So I appreciate you taking the time to put this list together that we're going to run through today. And also appreciate these awesome hoodies that you sent me along with the other stuff. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. And it's great to be here. So thanks for having me. I love the show. And, I live and breathe traveling. So it's really, really cool to be here as a guest.
Yeah. Well, how satisfying has it been for you to make something for travelers as a traveler? Kind of like I don't know, but I'm like the scratch your own itch kind of entrepreneur. Like I want to make the things that I want. Was that kind of the case for you?
100%. 100%. I got the travel bug in my early 20s. And, I didn't really have much money, but I found a way to get myself wherever I wanted to go. If I was living on a few dollars a day or whatever it was. And when you travel a lot, you get uncomfortable a lot. And you start to find these little things. Well, I wish this thing existed. I wish that thing existed. And that's sort of how the idea for Unbound came about. I discovered merino wool clothing and I loved it. It's great, but I didn't love the styles. I felt like it didn't have the versatility for the kind of traveling I was doing. So this idea popped in my head. I was like, how has nobody thought of this thing? Like, why is nobody making this brand? Now, if at the time Unbound Merino, my own brand, existed, I would never have started this company. I would just be a customer. But I literally would lose sleep about this. And I can sleep. I had to wake up for this interview. My alarm set me up. I was like, no, I love sleeping. But I would lose sleep thinking, I'm like, why doesn't this thing exist? And that was it. So the idea was just like, I want this thing to exist for me. It's nothing more than that.
I think that's always a great start. Like that's not how everybody rolls in business, but I think like for me, that always felt like the right sort of approach because it felt like I was solving my own problem. It felt like, well, at the very least, I'm going to have my own solution.
Yes. Yes. When we launched our crowdfunding campaign, that's how we started. I was thinking, I'm like, this thing's either going to work and I'm going to build my dream business, or I'm going to have a box of prototypes. I'll be fine. Either way, I'm winning. I'm coming out of this with one form of a win. So,
what did the budget travel days taught you, if you want to call them that? I don't know if you mentioned kind of traveling around, living on small budget, traveling on a small budget. There are a lot of lessons to unpack with that style of travel, I think.
The thing that stands out to me the most is that it's in a lot of ways a better form of traveling. I found I was digging deeper into the cultures of the places I was going because I was looking for the place to get the cheap sandwich. And I was asking local people a lot of questions about where to go and how to navigate the city or town or wherever I was. As I started to do more business travel, there was one point where the hotels started getting a little bit nicer. And I'm okay with that too. I like a nice hotel. But then at one point, I'm like, I don't like this as much. I'm not a very fancy guy, and I'm not staying in very fancy luxury travel kind of situations. But I did notice as some of my more nomadic budget travel evolved as a lot of business travel, uh, the culture experience I was having started to lessen, and it sort of snuck away without me noticing at first. So I thought back to my first big overseas trip, which was to Japan, remembering just going off into all the little nooks and crannies of Tokyo, to these places that you don't find on TripAdvisor or today TikTok or whatever. And I remembered all these conversations I had or tried to have. And I come back to sort of trying to recreate that a lot in my travel.
Yeah. Well, how old were you when you did the Japan trip, that formative?
Early 20s.
Okay.
And I remember, I don't remember exactly what my budget was, but I saved up a lot, and I had, let's say $80 a day to spend. And I would journal every single day and write down. I mean, also I was a month in Japan by myself. So writing a lot was a way of occupying my mind as I would sit in a cafe or wherever I was. And I would write down every single thing I would buy. So every sandwich, every little trinket, whatever it was. And at the end of the day, I would total it out. And I don't remember if it was $80, but I'm just going to call it $80. And at the end of the day, if it totaled $85, I would make my budget the next day $5 less, because I went $5 over. And I had this fun sort of game of sometimes I'd let myself splurge way over. And the next day I would have the challenge of, well, I'm only going to live on $20 today. And it's just like, it was like every day was like a little adventure and scavenger hunt to stay within budget or to go under budget, or maybe let myself go a little over budget. And that every day was just full of, exciting spontaneity. It was great.
I think back to that's when I was doing more of that style of travel and where I'm at today. I mean, I'm just wondering for you, it's like a catch-22 in some ways, right? You have a business that you love that you can run from anywhere, but in some ways it's never going to be the same, right? Like with that responsibility comes more time to manage it and all these things. And that is what allows you to keep traveling and do all the things you want to do and build something you love. But also it takes you out of the sort of everyday kind of like, I'm just traveling for travel's sake. I'm soaking in all the experiences, which maybe has its time and place in life, can't last forever, I suppose. Yeah. Do you ever how are you with that now? With that relationship of kind of looking back to that style of travel and trying to stay connected to cultures and still run your business and do all the things?
Yeah. So it's a mindset. I travel a lot, and I don't have to travel a lot. I travel a lot because I can and I want to. So I have to separate the days in which I'm relocating, where when I say I have relocating and I have vacationing now. And relocating is I'm getting out of Toronto because it's winter and it's freezing. I don't want to be here. I want to go to Buenos Aires. And the reason I'm there is for the sunshine. Now, I love Buenos Aires. I love exploring the city. I love exploring the culture. But typically when I'm there to work. And I'm there for the sunshine. So I try to be very regimented. I try to find a place that caters to exactly what my work needs are. I need to have fast Wi-Fi. I need to have a comfortable place to sit or a co-working space that works for me. I need to know the lunch spots. I need to know where my gym is going to be. I need to know what my routine is going to be. And I've been going for the past 3 years, and I stay in the same building now. I have it down to a science. When it comes to the weekend, I let myself sort of start to roam. And if I'm there long enough, I will take a vacation while there. So maybe it'll be a few days or 5 days or whatever. And I can, depending on where I am in the world, I'll explore that part of the world. I might even get on a plane and go somewhere. And it's just two totally different mindsets. And when I'm in the vacation mode or I'm in the exploring mode, I really try to be intentional about what is it that I want to explore or see. And the two strategies I have to get into the culture, one is I use AI, and I talk to it very matter-of-factly, saying, okay, I'm here and I really want to appreciate what it is about this place that makes me special. So let's walk me through a few things. First of all, tell me why I should appreciate being here, and then tell me the sites I should see so that I can have the cultural experience of actually connecting with the real culture and not the tourist culture. And you'd be shocked at how good of a tour guide AI ChatGPT has become. I was in Buenos Aires recently. I just got back, and I went to, it's a very famous I guess touristic site, but it's a very special place. But it's the Recoleta Cemetery, where they have these mausoleums and monuments to very, very important people of Argentinian history and culture. And it's absolutely beautiful. And you walk around and it's just stunning. And you sort of, you could see the tour guide walking around with their tour groups. And I would try to listen into a few of those, but then I realized I'm like, I have the ultimate tour guide in my pocket. So I'd walk around to different mausoleums and I'd look up the name and I'd say, I'm to ChatGPT. I'm here standing in front of the monument at the Recoleta Cemetery for so-and-so person. Can you explain to me briefly what's the history of this person and what makes them interesting? And I would pick random people. Sometimes I'd pick it because their monuments were so grand. And I'm like, this person must be very important in Argentina. And I let AI be the tour guide for me and explain where I am and what's important and what's special about it. That's been really good. And the other thing I do is I do bicycle tours. And the bicycle tours can be good. They could be okay. And they could be amazing depending on the tour guide and the tour. But what I find is these are locals or sometimes even expats that love this city enough that they feel compelled to want to be tour guides. But the stuff that I absorb the most is not from the tour itself, but from the questions I ask in between tour stops. Where's the best sandwich for real though? And where do you go? And I really can tap in through the tour guides. Bicycle tour guides have led me to some of my favorite stops on trips I've ever been on.
Nice. That's a bookend right there. AI on one side, bicycle tour on the ground with the locals on the other, and then you got everything between. Where are a few other places that you've spent quality time, perhaps hidden gems, if you want to call them that you would recommend to others in terms of destinations?
So I've gotten boring in the sense that, while I do travel around and I do explore new places all the time, I feel beholden to a time zone that works with my business. So I tend to stay on this side of the planet, but my home away from home has been Buenos Aires and Mexico City. I go back over and over and over again, and I will continue to do so. In fact, I think it almost feels to me, I'm like, obvious I'm just going to keep going back there, through the winter months and continue to keep the sunshine in my life. But those are my two favorite cities. I love them. And the thought of going back every single year doesn't make me feel like, oh, this again. I feel I can't wait. I can't wait to be back.
Yeah. That's always a good sign if you're just tapping into that.
I think that comes with also for me getting older as a traveler. I used to want to see something new all the time. And it's like, oh, I have to see something new. I have to, because it would scratch that itch. But as I get older, I'm starting to know what I like a bit more. And I realize you can always see something new in Buenos Aires and in Mexico City. I mean, there's the local, the same spots that I like to go back to, but it's not like I'm not discovering new stuff. In my hometown here in Toronto, I discover new stuff every time I go to Kensington Market. By the way, if you're a traveler and you go to Toronto, Kensington Market is the best spot in the whole city. And I've been going there, when I used to live in the area, I used to go 3 times a week, and I did that for over 10 years. And every single time I'd go in there, I feel like I discover something new. So seeing new doesn't mean you have to go somewhere completely new. It's like you just see a new side of a place you've been a million times or a place you live. And I've come to realize that. So I'm okay going back to the same spots more now, although I still have that itch. So like this Friday, I'm going to Australia for the first time, which is exciting because, in the merino wool business, the source of the wool is Australia. And this is the first time where I know where the farms are, but this is the first time I'm actually going to put my own feet on the ground at the farm. So,
that's going to be,
I'm very excited.
Yeah, that's going to be special. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop. Now, back to the show. Going back to what you said before with the mindset too of the vacationing versus relocation, I think that's pretty key as well to the work-life balance thing. Just kind of wanted to pull that out as you said, if you're, even exploring locally, that mindset of like, hey, I can see something new here this weekend. That just kind of changes everything. It changes where you kind of source information. It can change who you connect with, what you consider doing. I think that's powerful. I mean, you have some powerful lessons to share here in these 10 principles that allowed you to build this $40 million e-commerce brand while traveling. I would love to dive into those. I think the first question I have before we dive into the list is, did you set out thinking big in this way? Because I think that could be a good place to start is, we talked about mindset when it comes to travel. What about when it comes to business? That can be very difficult to kind of wrap your head around when you're starting out and you got a box of a few product samples. Like I have my own product sample right now for a physical product I'm building, and like to try to imagine this will turn into a multi-million-dollar thing can be tough. Is it critical to have that kind of big thinking mentality, or how did you approach that in the beginning, and what have you learned?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think I have the gene of optimism. So my default thought is this thing can work and this thing should work. And that's worked out really well for me because it allows me to go against the grain and go through the challenge of doing something really hard. And starting a business is hard and it takes a long time. But I always think it can and it's going to work. And I was surrounded by a lot of people. I for whatever reason, have just been surrounded by entrepreneurs. Maybe I've chosen and gravitated towards them. But in the early days of my own entrepreneurial journey, I started noticing some of my friends' businesses were, struggling to get off the ground, and some of them were flying high and taking off. And you try to figure out what the patterns are, and sometimes it's luck, and sometimes it's complete and utter talent. But my friends who were the most successful, they weren't. Look, and this is not a knock them. They did a great job, and they have a form of genius to be able to do what they did. But they surely weren't my smartest friends. And I'd look at them and I'd be like, really? That guy?
No offense, you guys. No offense if you're listening.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't know which ones I'm talking about. But sometimes I'd be like, he is killing it. And he's not that thoughtful about it. Like, it's like he's kind of just confident and just giving it. Like, he's just going all in. And I had a thought in my head. I'm like, well, if he could do it, I should be able to do it at least half as good. At least at worst. So that was sort of a bit of a motivator, but I have that switch in my head where I'm really optimistic. And a lot of times when you hear cliches in business, it's like you have to believe in yourself and all that stuff. The more cliche and the more irritating it is to hear, the more true it really is often. And the belief thing is true. You can just choose to just believe that it can work, because every single successful business, some person just decided that they were going to start it. It could be the biggest company in the world, or it could be just a modestly successful company, but someone started it and believed in it. So can you start a business and it actually be very successful? Of course, every single person can. And we have different odds stacked against us. If you have 5 kids and you're working 3 jobs, it's going to be harder. You can still do it, but it's going to be a lot harder than if you were me when I started. When I was starting, now I had no money and I don't come from money, but I was in my early 20s and I was living in my mom's basement and she was giving me 3 meals a day that she was cooking. That's a huge advantage. I had nothing to lose. So that's how I started my first business. So it doesn't mean it's easy and I wasn't successful right away, but I had low risk. But the one thing you do need to trigger in your brain is you actually could do it. If you really tried with whatever bandwidth you have, whether it's a side hustle or you're going all in, you could do it. Other people have done it and a lot of people do it. So you can do it.
Love it. All right. Well, where do you want to start with these principles? I don't know if this is ordered in a certain way, like counting down, or if you just have sort of this. Yeah. Talk about this. I talk about this list. Like why is this list foundational to you when you were putting it together? And I mean, if you want to just give us some context for the list, then we can dive in wherever you want to start.
Well, I don't really think a lot about like, how do I reverse engineer why this thing has been successful and why we're doing well. But you said to me, it's good if you have sort of a list of something, and it could be like the 10 things or the 6 things. And that sort of got me to sit down and think, well, what are the core like things that happen? What are the principles? I challenge myself to think, what are the lessons that I can unpack? And I did it for this podcast.
Thank you.
Well, it was fun for me to look back and do that thinking, to sit back and like some of them just flowed right out of me. Like, I know this is, I live and die by this. Like, number 1, which we'll get into in a second, is the most important for sure. For me, it's the lead domino of everything I've done in my life that has been successful. But I just tried to unpack the things that were really, really true. And everyone's going to have their own path to success. And some people are going to hit it fast. In my case, it wasn't fast. It took me a long time until I feel like, wow, this business is actually doing quite well. And it wasn't the first business that I did. These are my truths. So they feel like true to me at my core. And I stopped when I started to struggle to find more. I'm like, these were the ones that flowed out of me that I think are really foundational to why this thing's working and what's gone well for me.
Okay. Well, let's dive in then.
All right. Should I start with number 1?
Let's do it.
Number 1, surround yourself with A players. It's the most important thing. I said it's almost a cliche. The more something is a cliche, the more true it might be. There's an old adage, you're the average of the 5 people closest to you. And I remember reading that in a book and thinking, okay, well, I'm going to work hard to try to put myself in situations where I'm around successful and smart and interesting people. And I did everything I could to try to figure out how I could be around people who are doing great things. So the first move I took in that front, and by the way, the people who happen to be my best friends happen to be, I think, really impressive and incredible people. They're my business partners. They're my best friends. And that's complete luck of the draw. So I know where I'm lucky. But I work really hard to continue to find other people who I could surround myself with. The first move I took in my early 20s is I joined the Toronto Business Toastmasters, which is an organization that helps you with public speaking. And I didn't know why I wanted to do public speaking. In fact, I never really did any public speaking. I just wanted to be around people who were challenging themselves to do something very difficult, and they were the business chapter of it. So that was my first exposure to being in an organization where I was surrounding myself with people who were trying to better themselves. And I saw people whose way their mind works is every day I want to get better for different reasons. Some were trying to climb the corporate ladder. Some were actually trying to be public speakers and get speaking gigs and get paid, but they were all just trying to get better. And I saw the work that went into that and how seriously people took it. And in that environment, it's like, what's impressive and what's cool is How hard did you work? How much do you prepare? How seriously do you take it? And that was just the start of me starting to sort of let those values permeate into my soul, right under my skin. Every little bit of that started to become who I was. So I started to chase that, and that would be different entrepreneur groups, different peer groups and masterminds. It's constantly a thing that I concern myself with. And that affects me in that sort of osmosis way where I absorb things from people and it makes me better, but sometimes it's completely practical. For example, I go to this entrepreneur event and I'm surrounded by, I'm convinced I'm the dumbest person in the room at that event, which means I'm the luckiest guy. I don't want to be, there's a quote from the book from that event says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I'm surely the dumbest guy in that room. And I learned so much, and sometimes it's completely practical. A guy is a marketing genius. He sat with me and he's asked me a bunch of questions about marketing. And he said, do you mind if I have a call with you? Could I look at how you're doing your marketing? And I'm like, absolutely. And he looked at our whole machine for how we do digital ads. And he's like, can I give you some ideas? And he gave me the exact and specific ideas that allowed us to scale our marketing, which basically in the past 3 years, more than 10x our business. So it was direct advice. And it's because I worked to be in that room. If I didn't make the effort to be in that room, I wouldn't be privy to that information. So that's the most important thing in every way. Surround yourself with smart people.
That's massive. When I go to band practice every week, Dan, I am by far the worst musician in the room, and I love it. I mean, I don't really love it at the time because it's super uncomfortable, but I know I'm in the right spot. It's always a good thing. All right. Well, before we move on to the second one, I did want to ask you about working with your best friends, because do you have any advice around business partnerships and working with friends?
It's the best thing in the world.
If it works, right?
Well, if a business doesn't work, that sucks, right? But it doesn't have, you really can separate the business and the friendship. My first business was with this is a strange story. I'll say it quickly. I have 3 people I consider to be my childhood, lifelong best friends. I started a business with one of them, and that business we grew and it was great. And then we struggled, and I started Unbound Merino as a side hustle because I was really tired of what I was doing. And then when Unbound was validated, I founded that company with my other 2 best friends. So I split off a business with one best friend and started with the other 2. So you can imagine that would feel like drama. It's not drama. We all sat down and said, like, the friendship matters the most. It was the right situation for us. He was starting a family and he needed to work and make money, and starting a new business is super high risk. It wasn't for him. And we were able to keep the friendship. Now he works with the company and we're all best friends. But I truly feel like if doing something hard with your best friends is one of the deepest forms of friendship you can have. So we have fun together. We go through hard times together. We go through the ups and downs together. But at the end of the day, we truly are friends and we truly want to see each other win. There's no egos. No one wants to be the star of the show. No one wants more than the other people. Like we all look after each other, and it's one of the joys of my life.
Yeah. It's nice to have great friends and to be in the trenches with, so to speak. That's awesome. That sounds like, clear communication and just kind of just being honest with each other. I mean, it does, and with the business stuff, through my experience, having had a business partner before too, it does add this other deep level of honesty where you just you can't help but just bear everything in certain moments when things are happening as they are going to happen when you're building a business.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the fun things, right? Like I think why it works is we're able to be so honest with each other and give honest feedback. And I think a lot of times, especially if you're the founder of a company and if you have employees, like your employees aren't going to be as honest with you as you probably want them to be because they're afraid because you're their boss. And I always try to, like, I'll never say I'm someone's boss, and I try to tell them, I'm like, I'm not your boss. It's like, employer, yes, but it's like, don't treat me like I know what I'm talking about. When it comes to, for our head of product at clothing design, you know more than I do. To my social media manager, you know more about social media than I do. I have opinions and I'll share them with you, but they're surely not the gospel. I try so hard to get honest, direct feedback from them about me. I don't have to ask for my business partners. My business partner sat down with me once and said, Dan, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think you're a very good CEO. And I was like, ow. Oh, like right in my heart. And I sat there and I let my ego just like feel the pain. And I looked at him and I said, okay, can you explain why? And I took notes. And then I went home that day and I read the notes. And I'm like, let's not be egotistical about this. Let's just read this and take it seriously. Like, he's seeing something, and I'm lucky that he's telling me the truth of how he feels, whether he's right about all of it or not. This is how somebody very close to me feels about me and my performance. So every day I read that for a quarter, and I just tried to do the things to improve upon the feedback that he gave me. And he said to me the next quarter, he's like, Dan, like, I'm really, really proud of you. And that made me feel like that meant more to me as a compliment than I don't think people are like anyone else is as capable of making me feel as good as I did that day, because I worked really hard for that. I took it seriously, and it was honest. He was honest with me about seeing that I could do better, and he wasn't trying to hurt me. He was trying to make me better. And then he acknowledged it when I was, and that made me better. So that's the kind of honesty you can get from a friendship in business. And I think you just have to be ready to deal with honest and direct feedback, which is truly a gift.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That story also to me exemplifies the self-development-y, if I want to call it that, nature of entrepreneurship. Like, it's almost like, to me, it's one of the sneakiest self-development tools, like getting to that point where you're able to, like anything else. I mean, there are self-development opportunities and somebody who's an employee and as an entrepreneur. And in that case, being able to take criticism, take honesty, and to process it and then work to change. I mean, these are like sort of the things that it goes deep. Like, you don't know what's going to happen on the journey. And when these types of things happen, I think in business, it forces you to, it's not just about being a better CEO in that case. I think it's like you're trying to also be a better human in some ways, to kind of like, not to compensate for what you were lacking, but just to, just learning. Like, we're all learning. And I think there's so many opportunities for learning in entrepreneurship. Like, it's just forcing you to learn constantly. Like travel. You're out in the world, like, you're just constantly having to be resourceful, constantly having to figure stuff out.
Feedback keeps coming.
You can't stop it.
But sometimes the feedback doesn't come in business, and you think that you know what you're doing, but there's no one telling you what they think. And for better or worse, right or wrong, you don't get that feedback. So I've realized that my business partners are going to, even though they could be mean, we're best friends, so we're mean to each other. We're direct. It's out of love.
East Coast style, right?
Yeah. It's like, it's not personal. It's just that person's truth. And I'm like, where else am I going to get that kind of like, it's like, what's wrong with you, dude? What's wrong with you? Like, especially one of my business partners, he's harsh. But I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll take it. It helped me. And sometimes he's wrong. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, you're wrong. And like, it's like, I'm good enough to know that, like, I don't think this is my ego. I legitimately think he's wrong. And he listens. Sometimes he's like, okay, maybe you're right. It's a beautiful thing. If I could go do a talk about business, I would talk to high school students before their entrepreneurial career starts, and tell them one of the best things you guys could do is find your best friends in the room and do a project with them. It's like, what a life path. Like, you could do something that is the most fun and rewarding thing imaginable. Just being able to successfully navigate, because it's like a marriage, but it's like having best friends that are with you through everything is so fun. It's so rewarding. I think it would be my number one lesson I'd want to give to the world would be young entrepreneurs. I'm like, get started on something with your best friends.
All high school administrators in the Mexico City, Toronto, and Buenos Aires area are going to come knocking at your door.
Yeah. If I ever sell this business, if I ever exit or something, which is not a plan that we have, I actually would think I'm going to do that, like a talk for young entrepreneurs. And that would be just that.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. Now, back to the show. All right, we've only gotten to point 1, so I'm excited to see what's coming on this list.
All right. Number 2, 24 hours to grieve a business failure and turn it into a lesson and move forward.
I love that. That applies to life too, right? I mean,
yeah. I think I've noticed different people have different span of how long they grieve anything. And, I'll get into something a little bit more personal, but it was, I learned something a lot from this. And about a year and a half ago, I lost a dog. And he was my, anyone who has a dog or has had a dog knows like the relationship that you have with your dog is truly a special one. It's like pure uncut love with no complication. It's just love. And it was really hard, obviously, as it should be. And a few months after, I was talking with my friend who's a very philosophical Muslim guy. And he's like, why are you still grieving this dog? And I was like, you're a jerk. I'm like, that was my boy. And he's like, to still be grieving, this is what he said to me. He's like, still be grieving at this point is haram. I'm not Muslim, but he said it's haram, which is like, it's ungodly, I guess. And I'm sorry if I'm explaining this poorly. I'm not really well traversed in Islam, but he was explaining it to me. And I was like, explain. He said, it's okay to feel pain. It's human and you should grieve. But in his tradition, the grieving period is 40 days. And the reason it's 40 days is because that 40-day grieving period is how you reflect on the love that you've had for that person and the loss that you're feeling and the connection that you had, and you get the lessons. But then to honor that person after 40 days, let the grieving period end. That's what that person wants for you. Accumulate the lessons and take strength from it. And while it might not be that easy to cut it off at 40 days, I love the thinking of it because, yes, you're here with your life and life has to move on. And now I'm talking about a dog. It'd be weird for me to say, my dog, he wants me to move forward. Like, my dog could pick up when I was happy. My dog could pick up when I was sad. It felt to me in that moment, I'm like, you know what? If my dog was here, my dog would want my happy energy, right? So that's a personal way of describing the same thing. But I see that in life with loss. I see that in business with people stumbling where it's like, oh, it's so hard, and entrepreneurship so hard. It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be hard. You get kicked in the nuts over and over again. And when it happens, it's like you have one job. Don't get knocked out of the game. That's it. Just keep going forward. So I have had massive losses in business. In fact, recently, we're a Canadian business and most of our customers are in the United States. And when all the tariffs came into play, there was a 1-week period where our business recently dropped 75% in sales. Where I'm like, I don't know how we were going to survive. And the whole week was just this intense adjustment of how we're going to do our business going forward. Fortunately, they froze all the tariff stuff. Everything went back to normal. Whew, it was a crazy week, but we now understand the situation we were in. So we're just working to get the whole structure set up differently so that we can survive and thrive with the uncertainty of what the tariff situation is going to be. So it's like just when things hurt, you have to just stay positive and just go through it. The only job you have is don't get knocked out of the game and keep moving forward. And when you have that attitude, you start to see the failures. It's like, okay, well, that was a weak spot in my business. It's my own fault. I'll fix it. And it's a good attitude to have.
Yeah. 24 hours to grieve a business failure, then turn it into a lesson and move forward.
Yeah. A life loss, 40 days.
Yeah.
I'm living with that one. Business, 1 day.
Awesome. What do you have next for us, Dan?
Number 3, the best marketing strategy, make something people actually love. It sounds obvious. I mean, I guess I don't need to explain it that much, but there's a lot of businesses that sell junk and they're successful. And they're successful on the back of like unbelievable marketing systems, marketing funnels, great sales people, whatever it might be. And we do a lot of that too. Our marketing has gotten pretty good and pretty sophisticated. That's why we're able to scale and why we're doing well. It's on the front end, it's the marketing. But the real value is the product delivers. And when customers get it, they're like, oh, this is great. And they buy more. And we're a lot more profitable when they come back to buy. We're also a lot more profitable when they tell their friends, I'm in love with this brand. This clothing's unbelievable. Like, you have to feel this fabric. It performs like it's a miracle fabric. So they become our marketers. So we, at the core of our business, the first and most important thing is we make the world's best travel clothing. We don't cut any corners. Our quality assurance is as rigorous as it could be. Quality is everything. And I think that's one of the most important ways for you to be able to build a sustainable, strong business is you have to obsess over the product and the product or service that you're giving, because that's the only way for it to be easy. Otherwise, you're going to be endlessly marketing, looking for new people who are going to come and go. So people have to truly love what you're making.
Yeah. Make something people actually love.
Number 4.
Yeah, let's do it.
Premium product, premium customer experience, premium price. Now, this one is particular to us. I mean, and not just us, but like any business that chooses to go down the path of having a premium price. The reason why I think this has been important, and we're talking about building an e-commerce brand here. That's sort of the title, the 10 principles that help me build my e-commerce brand. It's a lot easier to build an e-commerce brand when the price point is higher, when you have that bigger contribution margin, because you have to spend money to acquire new customers. If our product was $20, we'd have to work 10 times as hard to get 10 times as many customers to be this size. When I was trying to figure out what my next business was going to be, and it took me a long time to come to the idea that, it's going to be clothing. One of the things I was really looking for was, can I make the price point high? Just for that reason. It's like, if it costs $40, $50, $60, $70 to acquire a new customer, then you factor in the cost of goods sold. Is there anything left? If you're selling something for $25, it might be a lot easier to get that customer because a $25 purchase is more of an impulse purchase. But what is the cost to acquire that customer? And I find that on the cheap end, the cost to acquire a customer for the many brands that I've seen in the marketing world, $20 to $30. That's the cost to acquire it. That's on the lowest end that I've seen. So how expensive does your product need to be so that you can make money? So try to find a product that's expensive, and you have to invest in making it something they love, that's premium, a premium product, a premium experience, premium customer experience. If that can lead to the customer being okay spending $200 or $300, it's an easier path for growth. So I always think that people should aim to try to find the thing that's an expensive product.
Okay, that makes sense.
Number 5.
Let's do it.
Hire smart, capable people then trust them to do their job. Now, for a lot of people, when the business is their baby, they hang on to everything. I'm lucky in the sense that I kind of want to know what's going on and not much more. When I hire someone, it's usually because I'm like, I just don't have time to do this thing anymore. I don't want to. And for whatever reason, I'm very good at letting go of that. Now, you need systems in place. You understand, like, how is money being spent, and whatever you need to know, make sure you have the system so that you know it. But I've just let go. I get out of the way, and I think that people realize in my company they have a ton of autonomy. Like, Dan doesn't even want to do that. I don't need to like see what Dan thinks. Just be willing to let go. And it's worked out so well for me. Right now, I'm going to Australia, I told you. And this is an interesting one for me. I told you I like to be in the same time zone so I can be reached. But I'm going for 3 weeks to Australia and 1 week to Papua New Guinea. For at least a month, I'm going to be in a completely different time zone. And I just know everything's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not needed.
What a great feeling.
What
a great feeling.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. If you're hiring someone, they should be able to do that thing that you're hiring them to do that you might have been doing before, at least as good as you. If you feel that, just get out of the way and let it run. And what I realized is no one person has the answers. So why do you think that you do? So just let the people make mistakes in the same way that I make mistakes and let them grow. It's a gift to them to feel like they have autonomy and they can make their own decisions and they can spend their budget the way that they want to spend. And it's a gift to them. It lets them grow. It makes your life easier. And that's the way I truly think that you should just scale. It's like truly just let people do their job.
Are there any best practices that kind of jump to the top of your mind in terms of finding these people, or whether it's finding them or something you do in the hiring phase in terms of like the system or the questions you ask? Or if you could think, I know we're going, I don't mean to pepper you with adding too many lessons in here, but this is an important
No, that's a good question. So this sounds a little woo-woo, but I truly believe it to be true. I think the most important thing you should hire on is core values. And core values are something that you should spend a lot of time really unpacking. It's not just like our core values or the customer is the most important thing. Like, it's not just this like lip service thing. The way we figured out our core values is, and again, we have the benefit of having some time. Like, we've been doing this for 8 years now, and it's taken us many, many years to like truly articulate what our core values are. They were a little bit bogus for the first few years and we tinkered with them. But the way that we figured it out is we looked back at every successful thrust we've had in this business, every growth period, everything that's working really, really well for us. So for example, one of the things that's really contributed massively to our success is the relationship we have with our suppliers. Like, they've done things for us that they wouldn't do for their average customer buyer because they love us. And that's helped us in a bind. Like, we needed incredible payment terms for a period because our growth was so high. We needed to increase our massive amount of inventory that we couldn't cash flow ourselves. And our suppliers came in to help us. And they took a risk on us. And it's like, we said, that relationship is one of the things that really helped us grow. And this time when this marketing really took off was a time when we really, really grew. So all the things that contributed to our success, we first wrote those down, and then we reverse engineered what were the behaviors that we had or the values that we've had that made that thing work. So one of our core values is create allies. And create allies means it's like we don't just like talk nicely to the people we do business with. We truly invest in the relationship because you never know in those relationships you're going to need to call on them. And you have to be there for them in the same way they're there for you. So, we have suppliers all over the world, but our main supplier, we go and we visit them once a year. My contact at our supplier, I've gone to her sister's wedding. Like, we're genuinely friends with them now. And we hang out with them and we do what we can for them. And we try to understand, what do they need to know from us? You know, should we give them like numbers on our business, what we're projecting to buy from them to help them? Maybe we could help them set their business up a little bit more for the year. And we think about them all the time. And we do that because we now know that when push came to shove, these people, they were there to help us. And by helping us, that helps them. It's a win-win thing. So create allies is a core value of ours. And we look for people who have exhibited or demonstrated that they are someone who creates allies in their life. Someone who's comfortable becoming friends with the people, who are nice to the people that they do work with. And we would fire on that too. We once let someone go because she was unbelievably rude to our suppliers. And she always thought business was like a war, you know, and it created tension with our supplier. Like, we can't have that. So we figured out all of the things that make up our core values that have contributed to our success. And all of our interviewing is, do these people seem to have those core values? If they do, they belong on the team. That's it. That's what we look for. And then again, I think sometimes people think core values sound woo-woo. They're not. I think that's who you want in your team. Those are the people that are capable to gel in the team and to do it your way. And if they have the same core values that we have, I can just leave them their own devices to just do what they need to do.
Right. Then it kind of boosts the trust. I mean, the trust is already established when they're going in to start the job, I guess, because you know you're aligned.
Yeah. Also, it's like, yeah, I trust that they're going to be fine. They'll be fine with their suppliers. And I also have faith that they're going to make a lot of mistakes. But, you know, going back to like 24 hours to grieve a business failure, it's like a mistake is good.
Yeah.
It might cost them money. It might hurt a little bit. If it's a dumb mistake, they'll know.
Well, speaking of costing money, I think that ties in with the next lesson.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Costly bets are okay. Costly recurring expenses are not.
This is gold.
I heard some lawyer
right here. I like this one. Yeah. Well, I like all of these, but this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Sometimes you're going to come across something where you're like, I think this swing at the bat may pay off. And you'll put some money onto something. It's a one-time expense. It's a swing and a miss. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You lost a bit of money if you tried. You have to try and you have to take risks. Sometimes those do pay off and they're amazing. But the recurring expenses, it's like your business is like, it's just like a little pile of money and there's an input and an output. And your job is to make the input stronger than the output. You know, it's so simple. That's all business is. You got to bring in more money than you put out. That's all business is. And there's a little vacuum on the side of your pile of money is all your expenses. And you have the choice of how powerful is that vacuum going to be. So it's those little expenses sneak up on you. You know, it could be DocuSign. You know, DocuSign, we need that. We signed on yesterday. It's $500 a year for us to have DocuSign in the business. Now, it sounds like it's nothing because we'll, you know, do a marketing initiative that is over $10,000. But you have to think, like, do you really need DocuSign? Is it really, do you really need this to run the business? Like, is it going to create a lot of efficiency? Yes. Yeah. Okay. But question it, because $500 here, $1,000 here, $50 here, $75 here. It's like you start to lose track of these things and the money just starts flying out. So really, really hone in on those. And that's a discipline that comes into like actually just monitoring your finances. It's like what's your cadence? Is it once a quarter, once a month, once a year, where you look through your expenses and you just try to cut as much as you can? And those recurring expenses are the first things you should look at, because every year we go and we look at it and there's what are these subscriptions? We cut thousands and thousands of dollars that were like, I didn't even know we still had that. It happens every single year. So,
Well, have you seen, of course, this is at the time of recording because this is going to change, I'm sure, but any apps or subscriptions or things, software tools or things like that you've noticed, wow, this is like definitely worth the return on investment in terms of e-commerce tools, online business tools, things like that?
if you ask anyone in my business, we'll have different favorites. I have my favorite is Faring. It's a post-purchase survey. It's simply, that's it. I can create surveys that when someone buys something, it asks a question. How did you first hear about Unbound? I learned so much from just, like, for example, I discovered that more people are finding us on YouTube than are finding us from our digital marketing. I found this out like half a year to a year ago. And we spend an enormous amount of money on digital marketing. We spend almost nothing on YouTube. But YouTube is driving more people than our digital marketing. And I thought, guys, there's something to talk about here. The marketing channel that we're spending almost nothing on is our highest performing marketing channel. We got to figure out what's happening here. I don't even know who these YouTubers are. So I asked a follow-up question. Which YouTube channel did you find us on? And I found these 3 YouTubers who are just Unbound customers who talk about us that drive an enormous amount of revenue. And that birthed the whole, oh my God, YouTube is our next marketing channel. We have to find more of these people. Who are they? How do we find more? Are any of our other customers influencers? Like, what's happening here? So that's my favorite. So I now, I ask anything I could think of that would give us value for when the customer first makes that purchase. The other one recently is, how important is the travel use of our clothing for you that led to your purchase? So 1, meaning this has nothing to do with travel, and 10 is I bought this specifically for travel, for a trip or whatever. And we were challenging our assumptions that we are making clothing for travel, because someone in my team said, I bet you people aren't even buying this for travel. Well, let's test. Turns out overwhelmingly people are buying our stuff for travel. So now we can continue to.
Now you know.
I thought I knew that, but I was willing to be wrong.
Yeah.
And if I was wrong, that would be a really, really interesting assumption to have challenged, because we spend all of our marketing on like travel related things. Our messaging is travel. So if people aren't buying it for travel, maybe we could be doing better not talking about travel.
Yeah. No, that's a great example of, questioning your biggest assumptions, right? Which isn't always easy to do, because sometimes your biggest assumptions it's like hiding in plain sight, right? You don't even think about addressing because it's just like, well, this is just what it is, You said that tool was Ferret? Is that what it was?
Faring.
Okay.
Faring. It's just an app on Shopify. But, the truth is I don't think there's any particular software or service that's like, wow, this thing has changed my business. Not much. Not really. The product. That's it. The product and good marketing. Like there's no like solution that you can buy off the shelf that does anything meaningful in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just like Faring because it's fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in that case, the most important part of it isn't the tool itself, but it's the idea that you're garnering customer feedback.
Love it. Yeah. I have fun doing it. That's all it was. That's why I said it. It was fun for me.
Those are the people you serve,
every
right?
day I look in Faring and I click around. And what other questions can I ask?
Right.
Which actually leads into, so maybe a nice segue into number 7, ignore shiny marketing trends, double down on what actually works. So I've learned this, I guess, the hard way. I get excited. I have that ADD brain. Everything's shiny. I see a squirrel run by, that sort of mentality. And I try everything. Everyone's telling me, oh, you have to do TikTok. It's the most important thing. Wow. Yeah. Like there's always something. And then you go and you start doing it. And then you realize, I'm like, hey, I'm 40. I don't even like TikTok. So the TikTok marketing isn't good. And, if someone on the team wants to take a stab at it because they want to take a swing, go ahead. But when you identify things that are working, just focus your energy there. You don't need to be on everything. And there are some people who say otherwise. Like, you watch the entrepreneur influencer Gary Vaynerchuk. It's always the new thing. It's like, oh, Twitter marketing is this and LinkedIn marketing is this and your personal brand is, it's like, you don't have to do it all. You really don't. You don't have to tweet if you don't want to. Do what works for your brand. If you see something's working, just build a system. Invest energy in that. We've tried TikTok endlessly and we fail endlessly. We've tried Twitter. We can't figure it out. It's okay. Let it go. However, our meta advertising has gotten really, really good. And we've built it up so that we have a whole team doing it now. And it's worth the investment. It's worth the energy, and it's always scaling. So when you find something that works, it's okay to shut everything else out. Just focus on what works.
Great. We got 3 more. We're coming into the home stretch.
Number 8, lifestyle businesses are underrated.
Ooh, okay. This is gonna perk up the ears of our listeners.
I've noticed in certain circles, like people talk about lifestyle business like it's a bad thing,
right?
Which is weird to me because
like it's not serious business in that way.
Yeah, it's like, well, you want to be building it to scale and you want to work extra hard, and it's like, business takes working 80 hours, 90 hours a week, and you want to build it to sell. It's like, do you? If you do, sure. I don't. I want to have a lifestyle. I don't even understand who's questioning this. It's like, who doesn't? Do people not realize we're going to die? We're all going to die. It's like, what are you chasing? Make the thing good now. Unbound was always supposed to be that. We built this to be that. It's called Unbound for a reason. It's like, I mean, that plays into the product promise of being unbound, of having to go to the luggage carousel and like to travel more simply and have more spontaneity in your travel, more freedom in your travel. But it's also in like the way we wanted to construct the business for ourselves. We always, from the beginning, said that we're going to make this so that we don't have to be in a physical place. Because my old business, I had to be in Toronto in boardrooms pitching all the time. I'm like, wherever I open my laptop is head office. Wherever you open your laptop is head office. And I want to have a business where I can have the freedom to enjoy my life. And I'm only saying this because I think some people need to hear that. It's like, if you can build a business where you're enjoying your work, you have the freedom to do the things that you want to do, and you blur the lines between what's work and play and what's vacation and non-vacation. Like, everything is good in my life. I enjoy the work. I enjoy my life. Isn't that winning? Isn't that what we like? What else? Why is that not good? So I'm only saying that as almost like a public service announcement, because I think for some reason that gets a bad rap. People look, especially venture capital, they look at, he's building a lifestyle business. It's not a real business. No, it's the best. In fact, I would say a lifestyle business is the best kind of business you could ever have by far. It's one that caters to the lifestyle that you want. So that's my PSA.
That's great. I love that PSA. Also, just you can get caught up in the idea of the startup world and just assume that, well, this is the way to go. You get investors and you do this and it's that. And again, going back to your point, and this just driving it home a little bit, not to beat a dead horse, but it's like, is that the lifestyle you want? Like, are you actually building an office job for yourself by doing all that? Or are you building the lifestyle that allows you to travel the world or do insert whatever thing you want to do here?
Yeah. My business partner just had a baby and he restructured his whole week to be a present father. I'm like, isn't that great? That's a lifestyle business. His lifestyle is now being a present father. So he's like, well, how can I be the most effective? Like, what's the time where I'm not needed at home? I'm going to be the most effective there. And I'm going to structure this thing so he has he doesn't have to be in his office till 5. He's done at 3. He's done at 3 every day. He comes back on for an hour at night because when his kid goes to bed, because he wants to. and it's beneficial to him and the business. But he has structured his life to be a present father. I mean, that's the best. Lifestyle businesses are the best ones by far, in my opinion. All right, number 9. 2 more. Number 9, most businesses don't need and shouldn't take outside capital. So this also plays into the whole lifestyle thing. First of all, I think I've never taken $1 of outside capital, so I don't know what it's like to run. I know there's certain businesses that need it. I know there's certain advantages you can get from having it. But in my opinion, if you take outside capital and you fill your bank account with someone else's money, aside from the potential risks of how that will ruin the thing you set out to create, aside from that, I think it's playing the game of business on easy, and it's not painting an accurate picture of how to be a healthy, successful business. Like I said before, your business is simply just a pile of money with an input and output. You want to get more on the input than the output. And if you have just access to all this extra money, you're not making the intelligent decisions on how to be a healthy, profitable company. We have the money that comes in is our sales. We have to learn how to be efficient so that we're charging enough that we cover our cost of goods sold and our marketing and our operating expenses. We have to figure it out. It's not, in principle, it's not that complicated. It's quite simple. But it's sort of, you run into a lot of snags, as sales ebb and flow and costs rise and fall, as tariffs come and go and things like that. But with all the tinkering we've done, we figured out how to create a profitable business that runs on its own money. And I sometimes see these people that are venture backed and they just hire endlessly and they don't really care if these people are being efficient. They spend on marketing. They don't care if the return on ad spend is good or their marketing efficiency ratio is where it's supposed to be. All of these like simple things that you figure out in your business of what healthy is and what healthy isn't is hard to see when you just have an input of money, which has nothing to do with what your business is. So on top of that, I constantly hear horror stories of when you get the investors in and they don't care about you. They don't care about your customers. They care about the return. So I don't know. I think most businesses don't need it. Just learn to run with your own sales.
Right. I guess that is part of that idea of having the constraints sort of forces you to take the healthiest choices for the business. Like the constraints sort of empower you in some way.
Absolutely. I think that a business is designed to make a profit. That's if you have more money coming in, you take millions of dollars or whatever it is that you got out of your investment, you don't even need to make a profit. Like our business needs to be profitable. It needs to be. That's the only way we can survive. So we have to work extra hard to figure out how to make it profitable. I know businesses that have raised a bunch of money, and it's weird in this world, in the business world, we celebrate like raising money like it's like the big win. But when you see a business right next to it that hasn't raised $1, but they're actually profitable, we don't celebrate it like it's a big deal. That person who started that company has figured it out. Yeah, I think people who've started a business from scratch and have gotten to a certain scale, there's some form of genius always in that. When people raise money, there's a skill in that, but it's like it has nothing to do with running a successful, growing, scaling business. It's its own thing. Raising money is one thing. Building a profitable, successful business is another thing. Sometimes you can do both. And sometimes, again, you need the capital. But we've had lots of people try to invest, especially in the early days when we just launched our crowdfunding campaign. And I'm so happy we shook them all off and said, nah, we're going to do things our way. I think a lot more businesses should realize you just don't need it. And you might be happier without it. Which takes us to number 10. Start with a goal so big that it scares you, then reverse engineer success. So, we've built our business on a model there's a book called Scaling Up. And it's sort of it's a foundation of how you could do your business strategy. What are the things that matter? The how do you deal with the cash? How do you with the people? Your strategic thinking, and it's basically a set of frameworks for how you run your business and how you plan your strategy. And it centers around the concept of a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, which is from a Jim Collins book. And I think this is one of the greatest things to consider when you have a business is that's the big pie in the sky optimist vision that you have of where this thing can go. So the BHAG for Unbound Merino is to be the largest merino wool apparel brand in the world. And the reason we picked that is because it's measurable, it's scary, it's audacious, and it's cool. Like when we first decided that that's going to be our BHAG, I was thinking like, we're going to try to be the biggest, aka number one at something. And how often does anyone get to achieve that? When I was in high school, I liked basketball. I surely didn't think I was going to be the best basketball player in the world. I didn't even think I was going to be the best in my gym class, to be honest, but I liked it. So there was something exciting about saying, well, why don't we go for being the number one at this? We could be number one. Now, it's not easy. There's some big players in the game, but it's measurable, and we can sort of figure out what is it going to take to get there. So the reason why this is important is not because it's like, oh yeah, you have this audacious goal and like you're going to get any clarity from just saying that. But what you do get is you point your scope at something. We know where we're going. We know what number one looks like. It's pretty simple. It's, being bigger in revenue. And then you have to reverse engineer that. So when you have your big, hairy, audacious goal, you say, okay, well, if we are going to become that thing, and now the timeline for this is like, let's say 20 to 30 years. If that's the direction we're going, where do we need to be in 3 to 5 years to be going in that direction? So then you start to paint a picture, and you get to get really vivid with that vision of, well, what's our revenue look like? How big is our team? Who are the key players on the team? And then, well, what are the key thrusts that will allow us to get towards this new vision? Because now we're not talking about the BHAG anymore. We're talking about 3 to 5 years. Okay, well, we really need to invest in our marketing program. We need to scale that. We probably need to have an influencer program. Of course, we also need to have a women's line. When we first talked about this, we didn't have women's clothing at the time. We need to expand into new markets. We need to have more of a presence in Europe. Like what you start to visualize what that company looks like to be at that place where you're going to be in 3 to 5 years. And you paint that picture very clearly. You say, okay, that's done. If we're going to go towards that, where do we need to be in 1 year? And that's when it gets really, really starts to get clear. Okay, well, if we're going to be at that revenue size in 3 to 5 years, okay, what can we realistically do in 1 year? How are we going to push ourselves? And the same thing, what are the key priorities and thrusts that are going to get us towards that 1 year thing? And you paint that picture, and it's like a little bit uncomfortable, but it's real. Like you have to be able to say, we can actually do that. And if we do that, that's going to get us in the direction of our 3 to 5 year goals, which is going in the direction of our BHAG. And then you say, okay, here's what our year looks like. What's this quarter look like? And that's when it gets really real. What are we going to do this quarter? And then we break it down to what are we going to do every single week. So that's how we structure our whole business strategy. I think it's one of the most important lessons in the scaling up model. It's just that sort of like getting down to what the quarterly thing is and measuring weekly. And every week we check in on the progress of what's going to get us to our quarterly goals, which gets us to our 1 year, which gets us to our 3 to 5, which gets us to our BHAG. So I'm a big fan of having a North Star. I find it excites people on the team. and it makes every week important because we know what we're really going for. So that's the thing that we model our business strategy on, and that's been worked really real well for us. And that's kind of how we have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what an incredible list. Thank you for taking the time to put it together and run through it with us, because it's loaded with wisdom. So I know for anybody listening out there at any stage in business, there are a ton of takeaways here. You mentioned crowdfunding a few times. If you don't mind me asking, I did want to hear your advice around that, because it sounds like that was the thing that was able to kind of catapult you guys. I'm just curious, was it the thing? And what are the? Yeah, I know that's a whole other podcast, I'm sure. But can you just give us?
It is. So I'll make it. I'll try to make it really brief. Yes, it was, and it was the thing that got us going on it for a number of reasons. One, it made us realize we do have product market fit because we put our all into it. When you do a crowdfunding campaign, you have to invest. First of all, you have to make the product. So you go through the whole prototyping stage. Then you have to create a brand. Like, you have to have a visual identity. You have to have copy that explains what your value proposition is. You have to have a video. You have to have photography. So after you're done a crowdfunding campaign, now we never had a business plan. We had a crowdfunding campaign. I would argue a crowdfunding campaign is a better business plan because it has everything in it. It has all the visual identity, it has the pricing model. It's going after a specific market. The other thing that's really, really good about doing a crowdfunding campaign is it gets you your initial traffic. That was our way of reaching a customer for the first time. If we just launched a Shopify store, does anyone know we exist? How do we get those customers? Maybe we could start doing advertising and start getting people on our website, but it's its own little ecosystem. So that was really, really valuable for us. Again, also we bootstrapped it. So it gave us the money to buy the inventory and start our business. Even if you weren't doing a crowdfunding campaign, not to launch it, just the structure of it is unbelievable for figuring out how to position your product and to bring it to market. So it was unbelievable for us. And there's a million things that we did to make that thing work. But ultimately, it was our first source of traffic. It allowed us to sort of articulate exactly what our business was, what our product was, and highly recommended way to start a business.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to let people know where they can find you? And if you don't mind, I know we have a partnership with you guys, so I can share the promo code if that's okay with you.
Of course. Well, Unbound Merino. You just type it into anything and you'll find us. And yeah, you can also hear us on the Zero to Travel podcast.
Yeah, with Travel 10, the number 10, Travel 10 promo code, you get 10% off. And I want to say thanks for your time, for supporting the show, but also just for your time here and sharing your wisdom and all these hard-earned lessons over the years, which they are hard-earned, as you can hear, when it comes to these business lessons. Yeah. Do you want to leave us with, perhaps some words of wisdom around travel, maybe a favorite quote, something you're living by, anything to kind of tie this all together, Dan? The floor is yours.
Traveling is personal to everyone. And I love watching different travel influencers like show you, like, here's the thing you need to do. It's like, no, just figure out what you need to do yourself when you're traveling. What is it that you want to tap into? Is it just a place, a way to unwind? Is it curiosity? Is it about learning history? Like I have found that being really, really intentional before going away, like, I'm going to be in this place. What is it that I want to take? Has made me have a much richer travel experience when I travel. And I talked about AI. I use AI. I talk with AI. I talk through my trip ahead to get some real inspiration about, and also to open my eyes as to why I should appreciate being where I am. Why is it special that I get to walk these streets? And I think if you take the time before you go away to really, really set an intention of what you want to take back with you, and you give yourself some time to think about it, you'll set yourself up to actually have that experience, and you'll take that with you. Because it's so easy to go away and just, go to that place where all the no locals go, but it's scored high and on TikTok or whatever. And you don't really get to, it's like you were there, but you didn't see the thing at all. So I try to take little lessons and take the culture with me. And I try to grow every time I travel. And I use AI.
Amazing. Well, appreciate your time. Have a enjoyable trip down under.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
1
month, multiple time zones away. And yeah, appreciate you, Dan. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
There you have it. Want to thank Dan Demsky for stopping by the show, and of course the folks at Unbound Merino for supporting the show. And we really appreciate their partnership. And I appreciate that Dan just really took his time putting this content together for you and I today to share his best lessons. I feel really fired up after this one. I hope you feel the same. Now, one thing I wanted to leave you with, you may remember at the top of the show, I mentioned something that has really helped me on my personal entrepreneurial journey. And it's a takeaway from this conversation I just wanted to emphasize before I let you get out of here. And it leads to the quote for the day. One last reminder before we dive into that, zerototravel.com/newsletter is where you can sign up for our free community newsletter. So if you like what's going on in the pod here, you want to keep in touch over there, would love to have you join the newsletter community there. Okay. So during the conversation, Dan mentioned that Jim Rohn quote, who said, "You're the average of the 5 people that you're closest to." Actually, the exact quote is, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And I remember hearing that quote early on as well and thinking, wow, this is sort of like a call to action to surround myself with people that are going to support me and that I can learn from. And I don't think it just has to be limited to 5. When I think about, I don't think about my life in categories, but let's say I'm going to categorize. If I'm thinking about business, that might mean, practically speaking, starting a mastermind group where you have 5 people that you have business discussions with every other week, and you kind of meet up and do that. You surround yourself with the right people that you can learn from. In terms of music, for me, I'm so lucky that I get to go to a band practice once a week, and the band I play in, and Laundry House, by the way, is the name of the band. We're on Spotify. Shameless plug. I get to go in and be the worst musician there. And that means I get to be surrounded by these other incredible musicians and learn from them and just, watch my jaw drop every week and what they could do. And I'm lucky to be in that room. And so that helps me level up, of course. I always want to be the sort of the clueless, semi-clueless, let's say, one in the room, or the least talented one, which isn't hard for me personally. But I think it is a great principle and something to keep in mind. And I don't think that means you need to fire your friends. We can still have our friends. I think you just take the spirit of the quote, of the idea that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you think about the things you want to do, the direction you want to go, and try to surround yourself with people that'll help you get there and will support you getting there. Okay. Now I'll leave you with this other quote from Jim Rohn to sign it off, which I think ties this episode up very nicely, because we talked about how Dan built Unbound Merino from nothing to this $40 million global brand. So I looked up a quote on building, and Jim Rohn popped up. He had a great one who said, "Whatever good things we build end up building us." Love that. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by zerototravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.